All right, we should be live. Just while I'm setting everything up, gonna throw the House of Commons on very briefly.
And that's why it gets back to my original point. We're not after the legitimate people who are coming here. We want to make sure that those people do get the citizenship that they are owed. But what we want to make sure is that those who do not deserve that citizenship, who are taking advantage of the system, are subject to some checks just to make sure that we can control and we can make sure that we know who's coming into our country. Now, I know the NDP is very angry at voters for taking away their party status in this House. And that has caused a lot of angst, I'm sure, in their ranks and in their members. And the member for Vancouver East, of course, was very much opposed to the changes that were made at committee without her being able to be there. And I know that she spoke on Friday, and there's a couple things that I wanted to just make sure that she understood. The first is about consecutive days. She mentioned that we're proposing that this needs to be consecutive days. Well, it's not. It's 1,095 days within a 5-year period. So we realize that people do need to have the opportunity to go and visit their home countries for, weddings, funerals, different events that happen, and that seems very reasonable. So, it's not a consecutive days. It's just within 5-year period, we feel that there should be a substantial connection to Canada. And the other thing I wanted to mention briefly was confusion about what is a visitor? What is a visitor to our country? And, I think it's pretty clear. As a kid, I grew up in a lovely town on the eastern side of Saskatchewan called Yorkton, Saskatchewan. My grandparents lived on the exact opposite side of the province in a small town called Herbert, Saskatchewan, another lovely town in Saskatchewan. I spent a lot of time as a youth, as a young person, in Herbert, Saskatchewan. But I always considered myself a visitor to Herbert. I never thought I actually was from Herbert or had any kind of substantial connection to Herbert. I grew up in Yorkton, that's where I spent most of my time. And I think that's the principle we need to follow here. People may have visited us, Canada, a number of times, and that's fine. We welcome visitors. We love it when you spend your money in our country. It's amazing. But we also need to make sure that that does not imply that in any way that makes you entitled to become a citizen of this country. And I think we have to be very clear on what visitor means and what it is. And we also have to be careful of the government we have and the 7th now immigration minister that we have in this House, 7 ministers in 10 years, who are not, I think, doing their due diligence on bills like this. The current minister just took the bill from the last parliament, which was the bill from the previous one, and just brings them along without actually thinking and putting some thought and some logic to what's going on here. And I think that's something that's very dangerous, and we have to be very careful of.
All right, so I'm cutting him off there. We can get back to that once I get through the things I wanted to talk about. That was just so I could set up the streams briefly. But over the weekend, a massive Alberta independence rally. AI analysis of drone imagery claims that there's roughly 10,000 to 15,000. Other places claiming, or the Alberta Sheriff estimate about 5,000. And I don't know, over 10,000 according to this tweet here. It's hard to say, but there is definitely thousands of people there regardless of the fact. And yeah, because of all the craziness that's happening in Ottawa, this movement is going to continue to grow. Doesn't really surprise me, honestly. It really doesn't at all. Alberta has to pay for quite a bit of the stupidity that comes out of Ottawa, Quebec, and they're just getting cut off at the knees over and over again in the oil and gas sector. Tanker ban, building pipelines, it's a disaster for them. And like I said, I don't blame them for being out in the literal thousands opposing the federal government and wanting to become completely independent. Completely separate. Speaking of Alberta, this, I think, happened before the weekend. So probably Thursday. I don't know what days the Alberta Assembly runs, but I don't think it runs every single day.
This turning of Canadian political power and public opinion was unthinkable just a few short years ago. Alberta is winning and will continue to win this battle for our freedom and provincial rights because your government believes we are on the right side of history and Albertans will not be denied their prosperous future. Alberta will continue to march forward with the freedom and justice policies and initiatives that save lives and make communities safe. This government will fund, not defund, the police. It will seek justice for victims, not excuses for the guilty. It will replace the enabling of continued drug use for the addicted while providing treatment and a means to recovery. It will protect the rights of law-abiding gun owners by refusing to enforce any federal seizure program and focus instead on fighting real criminals and securing our borders against them. It will lift up and support those who struggle with mental health rather than give them the means to end their lives because of it. And while Ottawa and other governments around the world seek to institutionalize the censorship of free speech, your government will forge an accelerated path in the opposite direction with legislation that contains comprehensive free speech protections for regulated professionals. This new legislation, when combined with the Alberta Bill of Rights amendments passed last year, will solidify Alberta's status as the freest jurisdiction in Canada. This government will never back down in its protection of children or strengthening the rights and freedoms that have made our province the shining city on a hill that it is today.
All right. So basically, it's just the Alberta government doing the exact opposite of what the Liberal government has done for 10 years straight. And I have a strong feeling it's probably going to work out quite well for them. Right? Like, why would you take Justin Trudeau's homework and alter it slightly? That's exactly what Carney's doing. That's what a majority of the Liberal ministers in his cabinet are doing when it comes to the very policies they want to enact. Speaking of not even a policy, but just pure stupidity, the $75 million Ronald Reagan advertisement that the Ontario PC Ford government released, words cannot describe how utterly stupid this decision was and how expensive and how unnecessarily expensive it is, or it was, to make this. $75 million for a roughly 3-minute advertisement, and all they did was crop out a couple things from Ronald Reagan and then throw some stock footage in over it. I mean, come on. That's not worth $75 million. I think anybody can realize that. And the Reagan Institute literally came out and called them out on it, saying you don't even have permission to use it, so it's not like they bought the rights to use it because they were called out on it. And now we have, I believe this is a US senator or somebody within the US government who is like just ripping us a new one because of the literal propaganda. They cut out parts of a Ronald Reagan speech and clipped it together as if it was one solid thing, and it was completely out of context. Doesn't look good on our government to be doing that, and it's, like I said, incredibly stupid to be spending $75 million on a roughly 3-minute advertisement. My God, movies in the movie industry sometimes aren't even getting $75 million for their budget, and the movies half the time aren't that great. So why are we spending that much on this advertisement? Why are we doing it at all? Mind-blowing stupidity.
Major trade issue, which is Canada, of course. This week, President Trump abruptly broke off trade talks with Canada and put another 10% tariff on Canada in response to an ad that the government of Ontario ran. It features former President Ronald Reagan. Why is the president setting trade policy based on a television ad he doesn't like?
Well, Kristen, let's think about this. This is a kind of propaganda against U.S. citizens. You know, it's psyops. Why would the government of Ontario? I'm told that they have spent or were planning to spend up to $75 million on these ads to come across the U.S. border. So what was the purpose of that other than to sway public opinion? And you know, it's some kind of propaganda that the premier of Ontario unilaterally launched.
Will the 10% tariffs apply to all Canadian goods, Mr. Secretary?
Kristen, I've been traveling since this unfortunate event happened. I know that the ad's been taken down. So, you know, we'll have to see. But I just think it was terrible, terrible judgment by this premier, you know, who has a bit of a reputation for being a hothead.
Yeah, not just a hothead, but clearly nobody around him has the balls to challenge his ideas or maybe go, you know what? Remember when we decided to try and take away their power, or we threatened to do this, that, and the fourth? Didn't end out very well for us, right? So how about we don't spend $75 million on an ad to then have negotiations ended, tariffs raised, and you pull the ad down within the next day. So you just spent $75 million, or roughly that much, for absolutely nothing. To just make the situation worse, actually. And I don't know what the thought process was behind that. I'm not sure, like I said, why did nobody challenge this? We've seen premier after premier come out and try to, I don't know, like Doug Ford said he was going to take away the power from the US. He was going to shut their electricity off, and that made things worse. Carney tried to implement a digital service tax. That made things worse. This propaganda ad, which cuts out Ronald Reagan out of context and puts it together, $75 million gone the next day. They took it down literally the next day. What an absolute joke. I covered this last year. It was yesterday, whenever this happened, within the span of the last 48 hours. I guess they're calling it Ugly Potatoes Day. I thought it was Ugly Produce Day, where they essentially just have these big bins full of produce that are undesirable, they can't sell, or whatever the case is. I don't think the food is rotten, but it's just not able to be sold in shelves or on shelves in stores. And once again, thousands and thousands of people, just like last year, lining up for rejected produce because they can't afford the grocery store. And right, these are people who potentially could be lining up at food banks as well, right? There's over 2 million people lining up at food banks, and there's thousands of people here for this.
But yesterday I did, and it wasn't because my stress levels were through the roof. It wasn't even because we had to call the police. It was because over 15,000 of you showed up yesterday to Ugly Potato Day to grab free produce. You didn't just show up, you waited in line for hours. Yesterday was one of the most heavily rained days of the year. I feel that this just shows how broken our country actually is.
How long did you wait in line up for?
About an hour and a half.
An hour and a half in the pouring rain. Dude, you are a legend. You want.
Family of 6, so here we go.
Attaboy.
I heard story after story about families not being able to afford produce, and it broke our heart. Overall, we are able to give out 250,000 pounds of vegetables, but I am truly sorry to the thousands of people that we turned away. Hopefully you
Absolutely crazy that this is just continuing to happen. And it's probably not going to change based on the policies the Liberal government continues to put in place. A little bit of a change here. Going over to, where was this? Argentina. Argentina. A right-wing populist, Javier Milei, I believe that's how you say it, I could be wrong, won so big in Argentina that his party surged its parliament deputies by 172% from 37 to 101. Senators by 233% from 6 to 20. This is a massive shift. Now, yes, this is Argentina. But it's now the United States. Italy has a very conservative leader. Argentina now has a very conservative leader. There's a shift, and it is happening before our very eyes. The pendulum swang harsh into the left, and it's coming back double to the right, and we're seeing it in country after country now. Depending on, I guess, what polls you look at here in Canada, a lot of people don't really have that much faith in Carney, and it's starting to dwindle off. I mean, I don't know why anybody would have faith in the Liberal government that was in place for 10 years previous to this, but for some reason people did. And yeah, even that is starting to dwindle. People are no longer backing the Liberal government. Maybe people are starting to wake up. I don't know. It's hard to say. It is too hard to say. Speaking of Mark Carney, nobody knows what he's up to today. Nobody knows where Mark Carney is because they have not updated the advisory. Oh, I guess they did. A refresh on the page. There we go. Advisory was updated. And it doesn't matter because he's in Malaysia and the Republic of Singapore. So he's not going to be at question period. Once again, I mean, this shouldn't be a shock at this point, really. He hasn't shown up to question period probably 90% of the time now. Like, it's gotten pretty crazy. Anyway, I'm going to rewind this for Jamil Giovanni because I do think he is the next conservative leader. I personally believe it. He's a voice that is not used enough, and he needs to have more time to speak.
And knowing the numbers.
Just that simple.
Tune West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that excellent question from my colleague. And he referred to the member from Lac St. John, who is a very good and diligent member of the committee who does very good work, and he's been very helpful to the committee as a whole. He asked an excellent question, and we've asked the government as well, and the member from Lac St. John did as well. How many people will this impact? And the government is incapable of knowing the answer. That is a very scary thing, Mr. Speaker, because if a government does not know the impact of a policy that it's making, it is just taking chances with something as sensitive and dear to Canadians as citizenship. And so here we have a government with no clue of the impact that this legislation is going to have, unable to answer that most basic question, how many people will this impact? And yet they're moving ahead with this legislation, they're pushing it forward, and they're throwing their hands in the air and saying, well, we hope it's going to be a good piece of legislation. And I just think that's a very bad choice.
Questions and comments. Question et commentaire. The honourable member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for his speech. It was refreshing to hear a speech in this House that was brought down to everyone's understanding and simplified. We understand very simple amendments were made in committee. We have the committee process for a reason. I'm wondering if the member would comment on what's his opinion on why the government, the Liberal government, would be against simple amendments that would protect the safety of Canadians as well as the value of Canadian citizenship.
Good question.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for that excellent question. Trying to understand the reason and logic behind this Liberal government is something I've struggled with the entire 6 years I've been here in this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. It's very difficult sometimes to understand the logic behind decisions. As I just said, they don't know how many people this will affect, yet they're moving ahead with this legislation. They don't understand the potential number of people with criminal records that might come into the country using this new method of obtaining citizenship, yet they proceed with this method. They don't understand the implications of maybe not having language or the other things that we think are really critical in this particular legislation. They don't have the ability, I think, to think ahead, to anticipate difficulties, to see how somebody with maybe not honest intentions might be able to take advantage of the situation, might be able to abuse the system that they create. They are unable to see around corners, as some have said. So, in my opinion, this is a weak government producing weak legislation. Thank you.
Resuming debate. Reprise de débat. The honourable member for Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to begin my comments about Bill C-3 today by first recognizing the great work done by Quebecers to shift the conversation about immigration in our country into a more positive direction. Je veux féliciter les...
I'd like to congratulate Quebec nationalists. For a number of years, Quebecers have not been afraid to speak out about immigration and integration. More must be done to improve our immigration system. So thank you for your courage.
One of the Quebecers I'd like to acknowledge is a great young man from the beautiful city of Montreal, Mr. Anthony Koch, who took to the pages of the National Post this summer to identify his concerns about an issue that is holding Canada back from having a common sense conversation about immigration policy. I'd like to read some of the words
I'm
from
gonna
Mr.
get some
Koch
water, I'll be back.
for the benefit of those in the House. Mr. Koch wrote, "The fact that my grandparents were immigrants does not mean I must support mass immigration forever. It does not mean I must stand aside while my country becomes unrecognizable. It does not mean I must endorse the strain on schools, hospitals, housing markets, and communities that unsustainable immigration levels bring in the name of some imaginary moral debt I never incurred. I owe nothing to the people who use my heritage as a weapon." I want to thank Mr. Koch for his words. And I would like to point out, Mr. Speaker, that his point that the heritage of the descendants of immigrants is often used by liberals as a weapon to wedge us and corner us and make us feel as though we have to agree with their immigration policies. It is immoral, and it is important to note that it is observable in the debates about Bill C-3 in this House, formerly known as Bill C-71. Mr. Speaker, you may know I like to do my homework, and so I combed through the transcripts of the debates on Bill C-3, and I found numerous examples of Liberal MPs and NDP MPs making reference to their heritage as immigrants or the descendant of immigrants as if that necessitates a certain perspective on Bill C-3, as if it necessitates a certain position on this legislation. Some examples could come from the MP for Vancouver Granville, the MP for Kingston, the MP for Spadina Harbourfront, the MP for Vancouver East, all of whom made reference in this House to their own family heritage, their own immigration history in their family, as if that is relevant to their position on Bill C-3. I think that is a textbook example, Mr. Speaker, of what Mr. Koch writes about, of the tendency of liberals to weaponize one's heritage against themselves, and I would go so far as to say a textbook example of liberal racism, which has run amok here in Ottawa. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would like to explain this further, and I will go by sharing my own family history to provide some contrast. My father came to this country from Kenya. You could make a movie about my father's life. Born an orphan in Nairobi, a black African man, very proud of his heritage. He was adopted by an Ismaili family and reorphaned as a teenager, had to teach himself how to be a man. Came to this country and worked in hotel restaurants and kitchens. Hard work and hard labor that took a toll on his body, which you can see in him today. And I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that my father did not do all that hard work so that one day some smug liberals in Ottawa could tell his son he's got to support liberal immigration policies and the cheapening of Canadian citizenship. My grandfather came to this country from Scotland after World War II, broke, empty pockets, had not a dollar to his name, got a good union job working as a school custodian at the Toronto District School Board. And when everyone else went home for the evening, he was still there working, mopping the floors and cleaning the classrooms so that children had a nice place to learn the next day. And I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, he did not mop those floors and clean those classrooms so that one day some smug liberals in Ottawa could tell his son or grandson that he's got to support liberal immigration policies and the cheapening of Canadian citizenship. My grandma came to this country from Ireland after World War II, decimated her neighborhood in Belfast, came here and met my grandpa, and together they raised 4 children. She helped raise grandbabies. She attended church every Sunday. She loved this country and she loved Jesus Christ. And she did not do all that work raising children so that one day some smug liberals in Ottawa could tell her grandbaby that he's got to support liberal immigration policies and the cheapening of Canadian citizenship. My point, Mr. Speaker, is that my family came here to be part of this country. They came here to be free people. And to be free people means we get to have different points of view than liberals on important issues, including immigration and citizenship. We are free to say what we believe is best for the future of this country as equal Canadians. And the idea that our heritage would be used against us to push us around and make us feel like we've got to endorse their broken policies that have led to the public trust and confidence in the immigration system being the lowest it has ever been in my lifetime. That's wild. We reject the weaponization of our heritage. We reject liberal racism. They can kick rocks with that. I don't want to hear it. It's a new day. It's a new day, Mr. Speaker, a new day in the House of Commons, a new day in this country where people from all diverse religious and cultural backgrounds can stand with confidence and say, we reject liberal immigration policies. We do not agree with them. We do not agree with what they have done to this system. And we are building a diverse and beautiful movement. Let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, in my home community of Bowmanville, Oshawa North, people from all religious and cultural backgrounds coming together, unifying in opposition to what the liberals have done to immigration in this country. People who grew up speaking English at home, people who learned English much later on in life, building bridges and talking to each other about what's gone wrong with immigration policy in this country. And they will pay lip service, the liberals will, and pretend that they're making changes. And yet, we see what's happening in this House right now with Bill C-3, the doubling down on the very irresponsible and unsustainable approach to immigration that has gotten us to this point. It is a serious problem, and they make light of it. They think they can tell you because you're the descendant of an immigrant, you gotta line up behind them. No, not happening. Not happening. My grandparents and my father did not work this hard so we could be pushed around by these guys. And it's not gonna happen anymore. So the point I would like to reiterate, Mr. Speaker, is that we have very serious problems in the immigration system. And if the liberals want to assure the public that they should have trust and confidence that this liberal government can fix them, then doubling down on the same direction is the wrong way to go. Putting forward legislation where the government cannot even assure the Canadian people how many individuals will be entering our country as a result of it is them doubling down on the very same broken approach. Putting forward legislation where they cannot tell us how many new people are coming into our country, despite the overcrowded hospitals, despite not having enough houses and enough jobs, despite traffic in the GTA getting worse and worse every day. And we're supposed to sit back and accept that the very same people who broke the system want to continue going in the wrong direction, but we're not supposed to say anything about it because we're the descendant of immigrants? No, no, no. Unacceptable. So, in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the good work done by Conservative members of the Immigration Committee here in Ottawa to present some common sense amendments to try to salvage and instill some sensibility into a piece of legislation that is horribly flawed and that reflects once again that the Liberals have learned nothing from the fact that public trust and confidence in our immigration system is at the lowest it's been in my lifetime. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Questions and commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I don't think you'll give me enough time to be able to respond fully in terms of the statements that have been made. But I can tell the member, at the end of the day, we had an election not that long ago in which the Prime Minister made a commitment to be able to deal with the immigration issue, and that means by stabilizing it. And we are well on the way to do that. There's a reason why we're at this stage. Yes, the federal government has to take some responsibility, but so do post-secondary facilities, so do other stakeholders like provinces and so forth. It's not just one government at fault here. And to try to give the impression that you can't reflect on your heritage in a negative way towards the government and then go ahead and reflect on his own heritage, I think there's some inconsistencies that are there. The question that I would ask the member, does the Conservative Party will they support Bill C-3?
The Honourable Member for Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, Conservative colleagues on the Immigration Committee have put forward a series of amendments asking the Liberal government to make better decisions about immigration policy. The ball is now in their court. Are they going to actually instill some common sense in this legislation or continue doubling down on the very approach that has broken the immigration system we have today? Now, the member wants to bring up the fact that I referenced my heritage. Let me reaffirm to the member what the point is, that you cannot tell, even though Liberals would love to believe they can, what someone thinks based on what they look like or where they come from. And that two people can both be descended from immigrants and both have a debate about immigration policy. They do not get to subscribe to us or ascribe to us as Liberals what we are going to say and believe, despite our heritage in this country. We are free people, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Question and commentaire.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his speech. I was at the Immigration Committee hearings on C3. We heard from experts. We've studied their testimony. One of the amendments that was tabled and was debated and was approved by a majority of members of the committee to amend C3. Well, there were a number of amendments, and today we're seeing that the Liberals are trying to use the House to remove amendments which were approved by a majority of members on committee. So I'd like to know what my colleague thinks about what this means about the Liberals' vision of the work done by committees, the work that we do when we do serious study of bills, and it's our job as parliamentarians to do that. What does this say about the Liberals' vision of parliamentary democracy in committee?
Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
I want to thank my colleague for the question. I wish I could respond to him in French. I'm working on it, Mr. Speaker. I will get there at some point. I do agree with my colleague across the way that the Liberal government pretends that they want to work with people. They say this all the time. Oh, we just want to work with you. They want to accuse the opposition parties of being obstructionist. We engage in the process that our constituents voted for us to come here and engage in. We present amendments, they pass through committee, and yet the Liberals still say no. It is a sign. They are the obstructionists. The Liberals are the obstructionists here in Ottawa, and their approach to immigration is a perfect example. They pretend they want to change, and they go to their friends in the media, and the media amplifies their message like they want to change directions. Look at the numbers. They speak for themselves. They've broken the system, and they don't want to fix it.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City, about 40 seconds.
At a time when our immigration system's already stretched and faith in its fairness is fading, Bill C-3 tells the world you can be Canadian without ever truly living here. Canadian citizenship is one of the most valuable things in the world, and it's something generations have worked hard to earn and to honor. Bill C-3 would give automatic citizenship to children born abroad, even when their parents have spent little time actually living in Canada. We used to have an immigration system that was the envy of the world, rooted in fairness, contribution, and community. But this bill risks turning citizenship into a paper privilege rather than a lived commitment. So my question is simple. Before granting citizenship, shouldn't we expect at least some genuine connection, some proof of interest, effort, or belonging to the country we all call home?
The Honourable Member for Bowmanville, Oshawa North, a brief response.
Yes, we should expect a real connection to this country before issuing citizenship to people. That is a bare minimum expectation that all Canadians from all different cultures, religions, and backgrounds can agree to. And it's one that is now under attack, a consensus under attack by the Liberal government. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Resuming debate.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a few months ago, I spoke to Bill C-3, which is a revival of Bill C-71, and S-245, a bill from the Senate, which sought to correct a historic injustice by granting citizenship to Canadians whose files had fallen.
If an election were to happen, whether it's this fall, winter, or spring next year, I would not have a lot of confidence in it, because it is up in the air at this point, right? Carney, Poilievre, neck and neck. Who knows what the Bloc voters, the Quebec voters will do? Who knows if the NDP will still be around if another election were to happen? I mean, it would be great if they weren't, but the problem with that is most NDP voters vote Liberal, so that means more Liberal seats. I feel like Carney has the potential to get a majority because people, for some reason, would still have faith in him. And I don't know. I can't believe the polls. I can't believe the polls. People want to say Poilievre's up one day, then he's down the next, and then they're up next week, and then 3 weeks ago, Carney, now he's made a huge comeback. It's like, dude, until it happens, I don't know, but I don't have a lot of confidence. I just don't. And Northern Perspective, I think, kind of said it best. The party that triggers the election will lose the election. You have to go watch his video, big explanation into it. I don't have time to go over that because question period's about to start soon, but it's a whole thing. And I don't have a lot of confidence in an election right now. And I don't think a lot of MPs have a lot of confidence if another election were to happen right now. It's all up in the air. It's all up in the air. And I don't know if a lot of people would line up like they did for the last election. It's hard to say, because the last election broke tons of records. Early voting, total amounts of votes. The amount of people on both sides that voted for the Liberals and the Conservatives was a record-breaking amount. So it's hard to say if that same energy is still there if another election were to happen. And the thing is, if the energy isn't there and less people vote, that is really what is going to decide. Because you have hardcore conservatives who are going to vote conservative. You have hardcore liberals that are going to vote liberal. It is the middle swing vote. And the people that are always on the fence, they jump on and off the fence for every issue. Those are the people that matter. And if people don't care to go to another election, they're not going to line up. They're not going to bother with it, even if it is Trump bad, Trump bad. And I don't know. I just don't believe it. I don't believe that another election will be good. Don't have a lot of confidence in that one. I'm just being as real as I can. As much as the Conservatives are hungry for another election, if they get a minority government, they're not going to be able to do anything. Think of it like this. 4 or 5 total motions the Conservatives have brought forward and proposed, they've all been rejected and shut down. Each and every single one. So if they were to get a minority government, unless they can build a coalition with the Bloc or NDP, if the NDP is still even around, they're not going to be able to do anything. A minority government, either way, it's going to be rough. So I don't know. This budget, November 4th is going to be massive. It's going to be huge, but I don't think an election is coming. And if one does happen, no confidence. I don't have any confidence in it. It's going to be a weird one.
For naturalized citizens to pass a language test, pass a citizenship knowledge test, and undergo a security assessment. In addition, C3 would now require a certain degree of accountability from the federal government. And, you know, there can't be enough accountability of the federal government, Mr. Speaker. And it would be done through the requirement for the tabling of annual reports on the number of citizenships granted under this bill. And that seems to us to be normal and easy to understand. We sincerely believe that these amendments respond to the court's ruling. And remember, the court ruled that we must determine what constitutes a genuine connection to Canada. Since everyone should be equal before the law, by applying the naturalization requirements to second.
Proud to be a Canadian.
All right, so I skipped ahead to live. We are currently in statements by members. Yeah, they would need a majority 100% to do anything that they would actually want to implement. If they even lost by 1 seat and got a minority government, they would have to run to the Bloc or NDP. And it honestly seems like Poilievre is trying to scoop up more Quebec voters because he starts off question period every time with French. He speaks French more than Carney does. He's constantly... Well, they're not constantly backing them, but I'm pretty sure the Conservatives backed at least one of the Bloc's motions. So, who knows? Who knows? Maybe more Bloc voters will vote Conservative. It's hard to say. It's... An election? I don't know. I don't have any confidence in that one. I've said it a million times, and I'll continue to say it until it does or doesn't happen.
Only lands less than 2.5 billion pounds. We need to restore balance in our ecosystem. We need to feed Canadians. We need a Prime Minister who will remove this global trade barriers for seal harvesters in our country.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, at the occasion of Women's Month, I would like to pay tribute to the extraordinary and often silent contribution of an exceptional woman. Born during the Second World War, she raised her 7 children while working every day on the family farm in the lower St. Lawrence region alongside her husband. Despite demanding and exhausting days, she found the strength and courage to serve on the board of directors of a large insurance company for more than 26 years, from 1986 to 2012. I need not remind you that at that time, women on the boards of large corporations could be counted on the fingers of one hand, and it's only recently that her children fully realized that with remarkable discretion but unwavering determination, their mother had helped advance the place of women in an egalitarian society. This woman's name is Huguette Veilleux. Mother, I'm proud to be your son.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Lately, there's been a lot of terse words said about Canadian-American relations, so today I'd like to try something a little different. For generations, Canada and the U.S. have shared the world's longest undefended border, fought together on the battlefield against evil, maintained strong trade ties, and joined our nations through marriages like mine. The peace, freedom, and prosperity we have shared has helped to bring stability to the world. To continue, we must each safeguard our economies and societies through smart policies, strong militaries, robust protections for our democratic institutions, and frankly, by seeking to understand the complexities that each of our nations face in our hopes and challenges. So I'll do my part by saying to Master Sergeant Jeffrey Scott Garner Sr., I love you, my husband, a proud American to the core. Thank you for loving me as I stand for my people while also providing me with important perspectives about your nation. May we all continue to strive for prosperity and peace between our nations. The free world is counting on us to get it right.
The Honourable Member for Sydney Glace Bay.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize Colton Ellis of River Denny, Cape Breton. Recently, Colton made his NHL debut with the Buffalo Sabres, where he turned aside 26 shots, earned his first NHL win, and was named the first star of the game in Buffalo's 4-2 victory over the Red Wings. Colton's rise from Cape Breton local rinks to the NHL speaks to his incredible determination and incredible talent, and to the community that's been there behind him day one. He's showing young athletes across Cape Breton anything is possible. So on behalf of all Cape Breton fans, I extend a heartfelt congratulations to Colton and his family. We're proud of you, and we'll be cheering for you every step of the way.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Les Aides-Chemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, at the occasion of the 125th anniversary of the Desjardins Group, it is an honour for me, as a resident of Lévis, to pay tribute to Alphonse and Dorimène Desjardins, founders of what would become the largest cooperative financial group in North America and one of the largest private employers in Quebec. The first credit union, the Caisse de Lévis, was established in December 1900, and it was there that 132 people signed the founding social pact. Since then, Quebecers' attachment to this institution has never wavered. With some 7 million members and a presence in every region, Desjardins is now a key player in Quebec's economic development and also an important player elsewhere in Canada and beyond our borders. I would like to pay tribute to the vision of Alphonse and Dorimène, their enduring values of justice and solidarity, and all the employees who over the decades have made Desjardins a cooperative that inspires immense pride. I also salute Mr. Denis Dubois, President and Chief Executive Officer of Desjardins Group, who is currently in Ottawa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, this year we're celebrating the 125 years of a true source of pride for Quebecers, namely the Desjardins Group. Founded in Lévis in 1900 by Alphonse Desjardins, it was the Quiet Revolution before the Quiet Revolution. At that time, when English-speaking banks were turning their backs on French Canadians and loans were wreaking havoc that were usurious, Alphonse Desjardins drew inspiration from the European cooperative model to create a credit union by and for the people. Over the years, credit unions have enabled our people, farmers and workers to access credit, in addition to participating in the birth and growth of several local flagships, such as SICO, Vachon, Cascade, and Cirque du Soleil, of course. Today, Desjardins is deeply rooted in our regions, villages, and towns. It's a symbol of collective determination and success that reflects the entrepreneurial spirit of Quebecers. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Bloc, I invite this House to join me in wishing the Desjardins movement a wonderful 125th anniversary. I raise my glass to their anniversary and to another 125 years at least, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, on October 17th, the 27th edition of La Nuit des Sans-Abris in Longueuil was held under the theme of Solidarity for Greater Dignity. Organized by the Table Itinérance Rive-Sud, this annual event brings together citizens, organizations, and institutions to raise awareness about the reality of homelessness, break down prejudices, and promote solidarity. I would like to commend the exceptional work of the volunteers, community partners, and individuals. And I'd also like to thank the people who shared courageously and humanly their experiences. Their commitment reminds us that no one should be left without a roof over their head. Homelessness is not inevitable, but it requires compassion, collaboration, and action. Together, let us build communities where everyone can live with dignity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government, Canada has gone from having, quote, the world's most prosperous middle class, unquote, to a country of empty bank accounts, empty refrigerators, and unaffordable homes. That's why Conservatives demand an affordable budget, one that cuts the hidden taxes on food like the industrial carbon tax, plastics ban, and fuel regulations, one that cuts taxes on work, housing construction, investment, energy like income taxes and capital gains tax, and that stops the inflation tax, the cruelest tax of all, Mr. Speaker, by keeping the deficit under Justin Trudeau's staggering $42.7 billion and by reining in its out-of-control spending on bureaucracy, outside consultants, false asylum claimants, and especially on corporate welfare. This government has chased $500 billion investment dollars out of Canada and has taken Canada to the bottom of the G7 and the OECD in per capita growth. That's why Conservatives demand that the budget contain a complete reversal of the lost Liberal decade and one that puts Canadians first.
Pierre. The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Speaker, visiting Ottawa today are two remarkable individuals who founded the University of Guelph's Serving Scholars Program, Dr. John Walsh and Lieutenant Darren Sargent of Guelph's 11th Field Regiment. For 8 years, Serving Scholars has provided academic accommodations and experiential learning opportunities while fostering a campus culture that values military service. It enables Canadian Armed Forces members to stay in the Reserve Force, grow professionally, and gain knowledge that strengthens both their military careers and their academic success. Serving Scholars reminds us of a simple truth. Those who wear the uniform can also wear the cap and gown, because those who serve our nation deserve every chance to succeed in the classroom. On behalf of the Parliament of Canada, I thank Dr. Walsh and newly promoted Lieutenant Sargent and all past and current students who have served and studied through the Serving Scholars Program. Your dedication to Canada in uniform and in the classroom and in the community makes us very proud. Thank you for your service. Merci pour votre service.
Thank you for your service.
The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, affordability in Waterloo Region has never been worse. Since 2019, monthly visits to Canada's food banks have more than doubled. In Waterloo Region alone, 1 in 8 families are currently accessing food assistance programs just to feed their families, while they're spending $13.50 a month on groceries alone, all while housing rising is increasing. Yet the Liberal government has failed to deliver. Promises were made, but the supports have never come. Let me quote the Prime Minister. "We will need to do things thought impossible at speeds we haven't seen in generations." This was during the election. Let me quote him now. "It's going to take some sacrifices, and it's going to take some time." Canadians have sacrificed enough. We need leadership that listens, acts, and empowers. It's time to stop rewarding delay and start demanding results. Because in Waterloo Region, unaffordability isn't just a talking point, it's real.
For Ottawa, Vanier, Gloucester.
She's not wrong.
Mr. Speaker,
she's not wrong.
I pay tribute to a remarkable citizen who worked here in the House of Commons as a stenographer, Mr. Alphonse Desjardins. It was while attending House debates that Mr. Desjardins became aware of the problem of access to credit, and he undertook extensive research on a cooperative model. Through his research and interactions with several European cooperators, he adapted this model to the Canadian context and created the first credit union. Over the past 125 years, the Desjardins Group has become the largest financial cooperative in North America, and we owe a debt of gratitude to Alphonse and Dorimène Desjardins, who left us this indispensable movement. Desjardins stands out in North America for its financial strength, high capitalization, and unwavering commitment to its 7.8 million members and clients across the country. I would also like to welcome Mr. Denis Dubois, the new President and Chief Executive Officer of Desjardins Group, and I wish you another 125 years of building the future.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountain.
Speaker, more than 2 million visits were made to food banks in March. Twice as many Canadians needing help to eat than in 2019. In a nation as rich in resources as we are, this is unacceptable. Nearly 1 in 5 people who turn to a food bank are employed. They go to work every day and they still can't afford groceries. 1/3 are children. Seniors are showing up in record numbers. Food banks are doing everything they can, but they're being pushed beyond their limits. They're spending more than twice they did just a few years ago to keep shelves stocked. Recent reporting shows grocery prices in Newfoundland and Labrador rose about 4% last year. That may sound small, but for families already stretched thin, it means they go without.
That's right.
In Stephenville, Catherine told my office she buys only what's on sale. Fresh fruit is a luxury. She grows vegetables so she can eat. She does everything right and still falls behind every month. The time for action is now. Canadians deserve more than excuses.
The honourable member for Scarborough-Agincourt.
October is Women's History Month, and it's not over yet. Join me in celebrating all the amazing women and girls across the country. Women past and present who have made groundbreaking discoveries in medicine, pioneered innovations in AI, championed in public service, and so much more. On this side of the House, we invest in women's prosperity. We have contributed $7 billion through the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy to support over 400,000 women in launching and scaling up their business. On this side of the House, we invest in women's safety. We contributed over $539 million through the National Action Plan to end gender-based violence, to better protect women and end the cycle of violence. And on this side of the House, we invest in women's leadership. Women make up 40% of our Liberal team in Parliament, and we have the largest women's caucus in Canadian history. We know that when we invest in women, Canada thrives. Bravo!
Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
All right, here we go.
Banque Alimentaire Canada.
Food Banks Canada has published its report on 2025, their final report, and they report 100% increase in the number of people needing food bank assistance since the Liberals took power. Last year, 39% experienced food insecurity, 53% skipped meals, 34% spent a whole day without eating, and 82% of households were not able to get enough food because of the Liberals' inflationist prices. How many more meals are Canadians going to miss because of this Prime Minister's upcoming budget? The Honourable Government House Leader. Food Banks Canada reports on 4 main factors to help solve the hunger problem in Canada. It's a lasting problem, and it requires a huge battle to overcome. There are people with disabilities, there's health, there's dental care, there's food school programs, and the National Housing Strategy. Those are all programs that they voted against that will help. And they've voted against every initiative we've undertaken to support the disadvantaged. The Honourable Opposition Leader. Food Banks Canada, I'll paraphrase what they said, that it took decades to get 1 million people in the lineup for a food bank, but only 5 years to get up to 2 million clients in the lineup. So after 10 years of Liberal rule, there are now 700,000 children using food banks. The Liberal programs just feed bureaucracy, not children. Are they going to force Canadians to sacrifice even more now? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that Canadians are dealing with challenges, and that's why the government is investing in Canadian families to help them get ahead. Thanks to the school food program, which we are making permanent, we will alleviate some of the pressures on Canadian families, also through dental care, our child care program, and the Canada Child Benefit. These are essential measures to ease the pressure on Canadian families. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Released its report today, Hunger Count 2025. Showing the number of Canadians relying on a food bank has more than doubled since this Liberal government took office. It shows that 39% of the population experienced food insecurity, 82% did not have enough to eat, 34% went an entire day without eating, 53% missed a meal to afford something else, 28% went hungry at least once a week. Now the Prime Minister says Canadians will have to make even more sacrifices. How many meals will Canadians have to sacrifice for yet another costly Liberal budget?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is good at throwing all of this stuff out. What he's not good at is reading what the groups on the ground actually have to say. Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government, opposed by this Leader of the Opposition and his party, systematically evoked in the report from Food Banks Canada today, Mr. Speaker. We support these key assistance programs for Canadians. He votes against them and then dares to get up and criticize us for putting in place support for the weakest Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, their programs do not feed kids. They feed bureaucracy, consultants, lobbyists, and Liberal insiders. And if you want to question that, 700,000 kids are lined up at food banks every single month. And let me quote from the report. It took decades to reach 1 million visits in any month, and it has now taken half a decade to more than double that. These are not outliers. This is Canada's new normal. The more government spends, the more things cost. How many meals will Canadian kids have to sacrifice for yet another costly Liberal budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, Canada's largest food bank in Toronto, the Daily Bread Food Bank, is asking that the National School Food Program be made permanent through legislation. and we are delivering this. They're asking because the program helps provide nutritious meals to 400,000 children at school. The Conservative Party voted against this. The members opposite will soon have an opportunity to do the right thing for their constituents and make school food permanent. We urge them to do so.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, these Liberal programs feed bureaucracy, lobbyists, consultants, and insiders, but they don't feed kids. Yep. Children cannot eat Liberal press releases or Liberal photo ops. Mothers cannot fill shopping carts with Liberal boasting. Canadians need food, and right now, after 10 years of this Liberal government, there's now 2.2 million Canadians lined up at food banks. 700,000 of them are kids, and a third are in families where they work, but their paychecks are vaporized by Liberal taxes and inflation. How many meals will Canadians have to sacrifice for the next costly Liberal?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Leader of the Opposition seems to flat out ignore the fact that this government is focused on affordability. We are focused on affordable housing, which the reports outline as a critical driver for affordable food. We are taking action, Mr. Speaker. We look at the trajectory we are on right now. Mortgage rates are coming down. Average rents are coming down, according to the Parliamentary Budget Office. We're seeing progress, but we're not stopping there, Mr. Speaker. Build Canada homes will be in this budget, $13 billion that this opposition can vote for affordable housing in.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Your focus is affordability. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts from the Hunger Count report. 78% of food banks had to buy more food than normal because they were running out and not collecting enough donations. 1/4 of food banks actually ran out of food while there are still people lined up waiting for something to eat. Wow. We now have nearly a third of Canadians who go hungry at least once a week. This sounds like something out of a Great Depression, and the Prime Minister has the audacity to say Canadians should sacrifice even more. How many meals will his costly budget force Canadians to sacrifice?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, I take it by the question of the Leader of the Official Opposition that he will support Budget 2025, where we make the school food program permanent, where we double down on jobs for young Canadians, where we invest in skills training for the skilled trades professionals of the future. Mr. Speaker, I just announced that in the budget, personal support workers will receive a tax credit of $1,100 a year. Mr. Speaker, we are putting money and support in the hands of Canadians, and that's why they trust us, Mr. Speaker.
A tax credit? How about you just cut taxes? How about that one?
Last weekend, the government blamed the opposition, complaining that there was a lack of support to get the budget passed. But just a friendly reminder, the people elected a minority government. That means the people wanted the government to work with the opposition to come to agreements. The government can come to agreements with the Conservatives or with us or with independent members. So instead of complaining and threatening elections, when are they going to get down to work? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, of all the criticisms you could make about this government not working, I think not getting down to work is one of the furthest fetched criticisms. Now, there are 44 Quebec members elected on this side of the House who are working pretty darn hard, Mr. Speaker, for their communities and for people in their ridings and to meet the real needs out there in Quebec. The Bloc, it seems to me, is a bit slow to realize this with their 22 members. Yes, the Bloc is a minority. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't even know what it means to work together for the common good. What they're saying is vote for our budget even though we have completely ignored Quebecers' needs. And then they're surprised when we tell them they need to get back to work. We're 1 week before November 4th. The Liberals are well aware of our demands around healthcare, seniors, housing, access to home ownership, infrastructure, and the reimbursement of the $800 million stolen from Quebecers. The real question is, do they want our support? The Honourable Minister of Diversity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I think I'll call for your assistance because we're having a lot of trouble understanding the Bloc's position. There was a meeting between the Prime Minister and the Bloc and the House Leader and the Finance Minister and myself, and they presented all their demands, and now they're saying they're not going to vote for the budget. So are they willing to negotiate? If so, we are too. But if they're not willing, you can't sit in the middle of two chairs like that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. The honourable member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals met with party leaders about the budget when the budget had already been written. They didn't talk to Quebecers either. There were no pre-budget consultations. No witnesses were heard in committee. After a year and a half without a budget, the Liberals worked on their own without even meeting a single stakeholder from Quebec's socioeconomic communities. And then they're surprised when we tell them they're not meeting the needs of Quebecers. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals know what they need to do to get our support. The real question is, do they really want their budget to pass? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, Canadian...
So that pretty much came off as, if you give us a good enough bribe, if you pay Quebec, I don't know, billions of dollars extra, hey, that budget, no problem. We'll push it across for you.
Quebec to work on the needs of our communities and to move ahead with projects that will create opportunities for our young people all across Quebec and Canada. Mr. Speaker, the question is, will the Bloc trigger an election at Christmas in 2025? Yes or no?
Member for Thornhill.
The Daily Bread Food Bank and the North York Food Bank in Toronto just released their annual report. It's called Who's Hungry, and it seems like the answer to that question is nearly everyone. 2.2 million visits in a single month. It took decades to hit 1 million and only half a decade under these Liberals to double it to more than 2 million. They found that 82% of households report they didn't have enough food to eat in this year. The majority said it was because of the cost of living. Every dollar that the government spends simply drives up food prices. It's over 4 million visits in Toronto. How many more people do they want visiting next year?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, this government has taken and continues to take real action that supports the people of Canada. We have instituted the National Food Program. We have instituted the Canadian Dental Care Program. We have instituted a number of things that help Canadians, whereas the Conservatives can't be trusted to help anyone. They use this as a speaking point instead of really caring about Canadians and whether or not they have the resources they need. These programs help seniors. They help seniors across the country and ensure that they have what they need to retire with dignity, where the Conservatives push the retirement age higher.
That's a horrible...
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, if any one of those programs worked, there wouldn't be over 700,000 kids in line at a food bank. Make food
there
cheaper.
It is.
Instead, they doubled the deficit, and they sent food bank usage up 360% in 5 years in Toronto. Students make up a quarter of those visits to food bank, and just last week, the Prime Minister lectured them all about making sacrifices. Well, they've already sacrificed home ownership, they've sacrificed good-paying jobs, and now he's asking them to sacrifice food. What will it take for the Prime Minister to make them, or what sacrifices will they need to make to stop this Prime Minister from his out-of-control spending?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The report invoked also clearly states that to tackle these challenges, we need to strengthen supports to families. It specifically mentions delivering school food, dental care, childcare, and affordable housing at scale. Conservative MPs have voted against each of these measures. In fact, Conservative MP for Central Newfoundland called the National School Food Program garbage, even though it's already feeding 4,000 kids in his home province. We are focused on solutions and on delivering for Canadian families.
Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
Food banks were meant for emergencies, not everyday survival. Yet more Canadians rely on them each month just to eat. Families are working harder but falling further behind as groceries soar and paychecks shrink. This isn't about generosity, Mr. Speaker, it's about failure. Right. As Food Banks Canada CEO Kristen Beardsley warns, there were 2.2 million food bank visits in a single month. The longer they ignore the reality on the ground, the deeper the crisis becomes. Mr. Speaker, when will this Liberal government realize their inflationary deficits are driving Canadians to the food bank?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I assume the Member of Parliament opposite was listening to my colleague when she was quoting Canada Food Banks about what needs to happen next, which is making the school nutrition program permanent, Mr. Speaker, investing in affordable houses, Mr. Speaker, ensuring that people have the supports that they need to live a comfortable life, Mr. Speaker, including affordable child care and dental care. And Mr. Speaker, that's what we're going to do, and we sure hope they don't vote against Canadians again.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
We keep sounding the alarm, but it feels like no one on that side is listening, Mr. Speaker. Families are stretched thin and communities are breaking under the weight of rising costs. One food bank executive said it plainly: housing and food costs are the greatest contributors to the increase in our services. Costs for basic living continues to rise while the money coming in does not. When will this government finally hear the voices of Canadians and stop letting hidden taxes, packaging taxes, and the industrial carbon tax drive families to the food bank?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, well, again, the member opposite did connect the dots between housing costs and food costs, and that's why this government is so laser focused on affordable housing. And we are seeing action on this. We're seeing progress to date. We've seen average rents come down across Canada. We're seeing mortgage rates come down. We're seeing home prices come down to make life more affordable. We're cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians and first-time home buyers. All of those measures are delivering results, and we aren't stopping there, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Quebec-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, Food Banks Canada reports 2.2 million visits in a single month, double what it was just 6 years ago. Their CEO says poverty and hunger have become the new normal in Canada. Working Canadians, from construction crews to office staff, are having to stop by food banks on their way home from work. In rural Canada, where food and fuel already cost more and jobs are often seasonal, families are being hit hardest. When will the Prime Minister admit his inflationary deficits are driving Canadians to food banks instead of grocery stores and change course?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, it's hard to listen to the party opposite talk about affordability when they voted against every single affordability measure this government has put forward. Whether it's the Canada Child Benefit, whether it's daycare, whether it's the school food program, which is not garbage, whether it's housing. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on making affordability for Canadians. We're cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We're cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe in supporting the most vulnerable in our society. They don't. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Montreal is going hungry. That's what La Presse says. It's a gloomy picture of the state of finances of Canadian families after 10 years of Liberal rule. 600,000 people in Quebec depend on food banks, and all across Canada, it's over 2 million people per month using food banks. The trend accelerated after 10 years of inflationary Liberal spending. 33% are children. It's almost 2 times as many. Is the Prime Minister going to call on Canadians to make even more sacrifices? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Food inflation is a global phenomenon which is much more complex than the simplistic slogans of the Conservatives. The big difference between them and us is that here on this side, we believe governments should provide support against inflation to help the middle and lower class families. That's what we're doing with our school food program, with dental care, with child care. And this is going to make a significant difference in the lives of Quebecers. The Conservatives, last week, one of them said it was garbage. That's the difference between Conservatives and Liberals. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, that government claims that they're supporting against inflation, but they're actually creating inflation. And that's why Food Banks Canada's final report for 2025 says that this has become the new normal in Canada to go to the food bank under this Liberal government. 25% of users have jobs, 8% are seniors, 23% are dual-parent families. What's the Prime Minister waiting for? When's he going to stop the inflationary spending that's pushing more and more Canadians to the food banks? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This report clearly indicates that in order to meet the challenge, we need to strengthen our supports to families, and the Conservatives have opposed every step we've taken to support Canadian families. And in fact, the Conservative member called the program, the food school program, called it garbage. One Conservative member said that. And even though food banks is calling for us to make it permanent, which we will do, we will continue to support Canadian families. The Honourable Member for Pierre. Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, Donald Trump announced an additional 10% tariff for our forestry industry. That's in addition to the 10% we've already been paying since October 14th, and 35% countervailing duties that already existed. So that's 55% in tariffs and duties. It's clear Washington wants to crush our industry. We need a rescue plan, including financial support and wage supports to protect jobs. And we need that now. 55%, Mr. Speaker. What more is it going to take for this government to act? The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade. Mr. Speaker, obviously the government is still open to resuming our trade talks with the Americans, but our colleague referred to certain increases, potential increases to tariffs. I think we need to be careful. Before that's made official, we shouldn't jump to the conclusion that a certain amount of tariffs will be imposed. But we do fully share the members' concern about the future for workers and for the forestry industry. As we are also concerned about other industries, we will continue to support those workers and industries. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, talk is one thing, action is another. The forestry was already at a breaking point before the announcement of new tariffs on Saturday. It's the hardest hit industry by Washington, and yet the financial aid announced by the Liberals in August has still not flowed. Almost 3 months later, there are still no wage supports to protect jobs. There's still no rescue plan. Canada has even cut back on measures to boost access to EI. Mr. Speaker, the crisis isn't over. It's only getting worse. When will the Liberals take action to help our forestry industry? The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Oh, it's Melanie. Here we go.
Mr. Speaker, we are activated. We're willing to work with my colleague, who I know has a number of forestry companies in his riding. Financial support is available through the banks, and it's guaranteed by BDC. The system is working, and some benefits have already been paid out. So we are in solutions mode. That said, we know there's more to be done, and we know we have to support the industry and the workers, and we will.
Solution mode's been working great.
Under these Liberals, food prices have gone bananas. They're so bad that 1 in 5 food bank users works full-time. Even people working full-time cannot afford to eat in Canada. Now food banks are feeling the crunch, jammed with 2.2 million visits in a single month, and the Liberals think Canada is ripe for more inflationary spending, rubbing salt on the wounds. When will Liberals stop squashing workers with their inflationary spending and realize that it's time to reverse course?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Food Banks Canada has highlighted the importance of federal government action that is helping Canadians, like the National School Food Program and like the Canadian Dental Care Program. This is helping more than 2 million seniors. We're building an economy that works for everyone. Conservatives have a record of pushing the retirement age higher, cutting benefits, leaving seniors behind. Not again, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian public trusts us, not them.
No, we don't.
That's why, while they're voting against every measure for Canadians, we're empowering empowering older Canadians and protecting not only their dignity, but their peace of mind.
Millions of Canadians are tired of your party and want nothing to do with it.
Liberals love to talk about political food programs instead of affordable food. That was the question. Before liberal inflationary spending and hidden food taxes, Canadians could actually afford to feed themselves. Parents don't want the state parenting their children for them. Parents want the government to eliminate food taxes and stop inflationary spending so they can afford to feed their kids themselves. The liberal fuel standard, food packaging tax, industrial carbon tax, inflationary spending. Speaker, when will it end?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
A few things that I think need to be cleared up here, Mr. Speaker. They talk about these imaginary taxes. I think the member needs to come clean. There is no tax on groceries. There never will be a tax on groceries. That is pretty clear. They talk about imaginary programs. I assure the member that he has voted against some very real programs, Mr. Speaker, very real programs for school food, for dental care, and many other things that are for the most vulnerable in society. The last thing, though, what is inflationary spending when it comes to supporting Canadians? Canadians want to know, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Every dollar this Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians through higher prices and food inflation. It took decades for food banks to have 1 million food bank users every month. It took the Liberals just 6 months to double that number. This Prime Minister said bet. He's going to double the deficit and make more than 2.2 million Canadians visit a food bank in a single month. When will these guys realize that inflationary deficits are driving up food costs and driving more Canadians into food banks?
Yeah, way to go, Jeff.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
You know, when the Prime Minister said that it's time for Canada to bet big, he meant bet big on Canadians, and that's something these guys don't understand. They refuse to invest in Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Today I announced that in Budget 2025, $75 million will go to building trades unions to make sure that kids and young people can get great jobs in the skilled trades. These are good-paying jobs, Mr. Speaker. That's what it looks like to bet on Canadians. That's what it looks like to have the backs of Canadians.
Well done.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
If programs like that actually worked and didn't feed bureaucracy, then 700,000 kids wouldn't be visiting a food bank every single month. And their Liberal deficits are what are making the food go up in cost. That's why grocery inflation is up 4%. People who used to donate and that used to volunteer at food banks are now standing in line for food at those food banks. Why won't these Liberals stop feeding their egos, stop feeding their bloated bureaucracy, so Canadians can finally afford to feed themselves?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
So which is it, Mr. Speaker? They're either about empowering Canadians through good-paying jobs or empowering Canadians through the kinds of programs like the school food program. We believe in both, Mr. Speaker, because we're betting on Canadians. We're betting on both their resiliency and their ability to get those great-paying jobs as we create those projects across the country. This member opposite, Mr. Speaker, he doesn't want to invest in Canadians either to support them now or to help them have better futures. So which is it? Which is it that he's...
We literally don't believe a word you have to say. Especially Gary. Gary's the worst.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon University.
Hardworking Canadians spend all day at work, and on the way home they are not stopping at grocery stores, it's food banks. For millions of working Canadians, they have to go to the food banks because they can't afford the hidden Liberal food taxes like the industrial carbon tax and the food packaging tax. Food Banks Canada reports a record-smashing 2.2 million visits in a single month. And donations, well, they're down because Canadians are broke. When will these out-of-touch Liberals admit to driving up the cost of food and driving Canadians to the food bank?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Northern...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. After 10 years of Conservative MPs coming to Ottawa, collectively with 14 of them coming, that's 140 years. And that's the first question we got from the Saskatchewan perspective, Mr. Speaker. In my riding, Saskatchewan is finally here on the government side. We're going to address housing, Mr. Speaker. We're going to address the cost of living. And I'm glad finally the Conservatives from Saskatchewan finally woke up.
The Honourable Member for Avalon.
What the hell was that answer?
Mr. Speaker,
Constituents of my riding of Avalon and the good people of Newfoundland and Labrador were shocked to hear the Conservative member of Central Newfoundland say that the Healthy Meals program, which feeds 4,100, yes, 4,100 or more kids at schools in our province, was garbage. In reality, hundreds of thousands of additional children across are being fed at schools across Canada thanks to this government. But I guess it is easier to say you're going to cut a program if you try to make yourself believe that it doesn't exist. Can the Secretary of State please inform my constituents how the National Food
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Avalon for his question. In fact, Sarah from Central Newfoundland reached out to tell me about the National School Food Program at their school after her members' comments last week. And I quote, she said, "It's wonderful. More students are getting healthy lunches." And the lunch lady went from part-time to full-time. Plus, they hired 2 nans as part-time. Employment in his area. Mr. Speaker, there are countless examples like this across Canada of kids getting meals thanks to the National School Food Program. We will always be there for Canadian families.
So you're telling me that there's more starving people now, therefore she had to go from part-time to full-time in order to feed them all.
In Canada, due to Liberal mismanagement, every dollar this Liberal Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadian families through higher prices and food inflation. 1/3 of Canadian children now live in a food-insecure household. Food Banks Canada reports record-breaking food bank use with 2.2 million visits in a single month, and over 700,000 of those visits are children. When will the Liberals realize that their inflationary deficits are driving up the cost of food banks and driving Canadian children to the food bank?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are committed to growing the strongest economy in the G7 and protecting and strengthening the supports that help Canadian families. The report that is being highlighted here, again, I would say that the relief that families get through the school food program, dental care, childcare, these are all things that report cites as critical to addressing the challenges that Canadians are facing right now. This government will always stand with Canadian families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
If a single one of those projects and programs actually worked, there wouldn't be 700,000 children waiting in food bank line every single month. This is not okay. And yet somehow the Liberals have normalized this. 9 out of 10 kids aren't even fed by the school food program, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberals realize their inflationary deficits and hidden food taxes are making food more expensive and driving Canadian children to food banks?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No child in this country should go to school hungry. This is why our government brought forward the National School Food Program, and that is why this new government has committed to making this program permanent and introducing legislation to do so, as well as the funding necessary to ensure this program continues in perpetuity. This is an essential piece of tackling the challenges that Canadian families are facing. We are proud of this program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians through higher prices and food inflation. Food Banks Canada is reporting 2.2 million visits in a single month. This is double what it was just 6 years ago. Even more alarming, 1 in 3 of those visits is by a child. Their CEO says parents are stopping in at the food bank on the way home from work, not the grocery store. When will this Prime Minister finally admit his inflationary spending and deficits are driving parents to the food banks?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, years ago, Food Secure Canada did an analysis of all the issues in the food system. Do you know what issue was the most popular among Canadians? Feeding kids. It's instinctual for any parent, but the desire to feed kids extends almost universally to all Canadians, except when it comes to the Conservatives. They've taken the most unpopular position. They actually oppose a national school food program. Their usual excuse is to claim that there's no food in the food program, but last week they actually had the gall to call the food program garbage. Who does that? Who says that, Mr. Speaker?
The honourable member for Battleford, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if these programs actually fed the children that the Liberals are claiming they feed, there wouldn't be 750,000 plus children lined up at the food banks every month. Mr. Speaker, it's the hidden taxes like the fuel standard, the food packaging tax, the industrial carbon tax, and rising inflation that are making it harder for families at the grocery checkout. Grocery prices are up 4% overall, with ground beef up 17%, coffee up 28%, soup is up 9%, and those numbers, Mr. Speaker, translate to record numbers of Canadians turning to the food banks to feed their families. When will this price?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, while our government invests in feeding 400,000 more kids healthy food in schools, the Conservatives call that garbage. While our government works to expedite major infrastructure projects creating tens of thousands of jobs, the Conservative leader calls them pathetic. While our government gives law enforcement the tools they need to keep our communities safe, the Conservative leader calls the RCMP despicable. The pattern is clear. The Conservatives will disparage people, projects, and programs that help Canadians while we continue to deliver for them.
The honourable member for King Vaughan.
The very people that built this country and taught us the value of hard work while managing our budgets are having to line up at the food bank. Food Banks Canada reports that almost 10% of food bank users are seniors, up 22% from 2019. This Liberal government's reckless spending has driven up prices and left our seniors behind. When will this Liberal government respect our seniors and stop the inflationary spending so that they can live their retirement years in dignity?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
This government is the only party in this House that can be trusted to have seniors' backs. We returned the age of retirement to 65 when those folks wanted to push it up to 67. Through this government's actions, we are ensuring that Canadian seniors have access to one of the largest social programs in the country, and that is the Old Age Security and Guaranteed Income Supplement. Through that, we are ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that folks have up to $1,086 per month for the most financially vulnerable seniors. It is things like this that ensure seniors have...
The honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians through higher prices and through food inflation. Monthly visits to food banks have doubled since 2019, with 2.2 million visits per month. Nearly 10% of food bank users are now seniors. This is up 22%. This reliance on food banks has to become an ongoing necessity to survive. Mr. Speaker, when will the Liberals realize that their inflationary deficits are driving up the cost of food and driving Canadians to the food bank?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, I think we've covered quite a bit in this question period, but let me remind the opposition that today I was with the SEIU, who represents personal support workers across this country. These incredible, hardworking people who support our family members, our seniors every day. Under Budget 2025, it proposes that they will receive a tax credit, a non-refundable tax credit worth $1,100 a year, Mr. Speaker. The union fought for this. They asked for this. Promise made, promise kept, Mr. Speaker. And I'll end with this. This is money in the pockets of these workers. I sure hope they're going to support the budget.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, North Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this morning, a baby abandoned in a bus shelter died. It's undescribably sad, and I'm sure that all of my colleagues here in this House join me in hoping that that baby rests in peace. How much must somebody suffer to come to that situation? People are suffering. People are having a hard time getting housing. People are having a hard time getting food. People are losing their jobs. Canadians are suffering, Mr. Speaker. Are the Liberals aware of the consequences of their poor management? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think I speak on behalf of all colleagues when we send our sympathy to this tragedy which has affected all of Quebec right now, and we send our sympathy to the family. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, these are facts. This child had a family, and we need to fight, Mr. Speaker. We are talking about our people. We're talking about people in my riding of Richmond-Arthabaska. Use of the food bank has gone up. People created an organization to put food in our kids' lunch boxes. What are the Liberals going to do to help our people eat and feed our children? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that we have a national food program for schools to help kids and to help Canadians meet their challenges. What I have to say is that you'll have the opportunity to support the budget for that program, and I would encourage all members to support the National Food School Program. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, food banks in Canada have reported a record number of 2.2 million visits in just 1 month. The CEO of Food Banks Canada said, and I quote, "Poverty and hunger have been normalized in Canada. People are stopping at food banks on their way home from work instead of going to the grocery store. Inflationary deficits are increasing the cost of food. Why does the Prime Minister continue to spend more without worrying about people who have nothing to eat?" The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, I'm always surprised to hear these questions from a party that was ready to sacrifice all kinds of programs that Quebecers and Canadians depend on every day. If we think, for example, about the Canada Child Benefit, the dental care program, the school food program, and Mr. Speaker, I would invite him to come to my riding, speak to people from the Saint Vincent de Paul, talk to people at the United Way, and tell them that it's just bureaucracy that's never helped anybody. I think they need to reconnect with reality on the other side of the House. The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Our government has always been there to help our healthcare workers. These men and women are devoted, and they take care of our loved ones and our seniors every day. My question is for the Minister of Health, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister please explain how the measures newly announced today, including the tax credit for personal support workers and new support for union training, will help strengthen our healthcare system and better support those who work in it? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Our new government is recognizing, training, and retaining those who take care of Canadians every single day. Our new refundable tax credit for personal support workers reaches up to $1,100 per person, recognizes their incredible work. We are protecting workers by eliminating non-competition clauses in the federal sector. We will continue to support the healthcare workers who support Canadians.
Honourable Member for Kenora-Kiiwetinoong.
The Prime Minister told a room full of students that they're going to have to make sacrifices. They've already given up their dream of home ownership. They went all summer without work, and they are paying the price of exploding food costs, Mr. Speaker. Food bank visits have doubled since 2019, and Canadians shouldn't have to sacrifice any more for Liberal failures. They have sacrificed enough over 10 long years. So will the Liberals finally keep their promises and get spending under control so that young Canadians can afford to feed themselves.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, today I announced another $75 million into skilled trades training in partnership with unions across this country. And you know why, Mr. Speaker? Because Red Seal trades are great paying jobs, and we need individuals all across this country to build the homes, to build the projects, to build the infrastructure. And Mr. Speaker, we know that unions can get the job done. And these great paying jobs, Mr. Speaker, is what youth have to look forward to as we build Canada strong together.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told a room full of students that they're going to have to make sacrifices. This includes students at Fanshawe College in London. But young Canadians have already sacrificed enough for over 10 long years.
That's right.
They've sacrificed the dream of home ownership. They've paid the price as food costs exploded. They've spent the summer without work. Food Banks Canada reported that monthly food bank visits have doubled since 2019, reaching over 2.2 million. Nearly 1 in 5 people using food banks have jobs, but they still cannot make ends meet. Their CEO warned that poverty and hunger are being normalized in Canada. When will the Liberals stop breaking promises so hungry Canadians can afford to feed themselves?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while the party opposite leader and that party are clearly out of control, we're focused on this side about what we can control. And we are going to make generational investments to change our economy from reliance to resilience. On November 4th, Mr. Speaker, we're going to table a budget that is going to invest in Canada. We're going to build Canada because we believe in Canada, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Terra Nova, the Peninsulas.
Mr. Speaker, food bank usage has doubled in the past 6 years, now with over 2 million usages per month. 1 in 5 of those people are actually employed. Even more alarming is that 1 in 4 of those food bank users are from 2-parent households. Young people in this country are doing everything right, and they still can't live because of this liberal inflation. Instead of asking young Canadians to make more sacrifices, why can't this Liberal government sacrifice their ego and stop their inflationary budgets?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I want to remind another colleague from Newfoundland and Labrador in the opposition that school nutrition programs is important to our province. We were the first to sign on for this program because it matters. The Conservatives voted against it. One Conservative called it garbage. It does feed children, it matters, and I'm asking this member, are they going to vote with us when the time comes?
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians depend on personal support workers every day, whether they're in long-term care homes, retirement residences, or community settings. These workers deserve fair recognition for the critical care they provide. Can the Minister update this House on how Budget 2025 will help strengthen the PSW workforce and ensure they're supported and rewarded for their vital contributions?
The Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I was at Extended Care with a number of personal support workers as we announced this measure of support for the very workers that care for our loved ones. And Kelly, one of the support workers, said, you know, people talk all the time about the importance of the work, but this is the first time we've ever felt like someone's doing something for us. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm just so thrilled to say that we will be supporting personal support workers with a refundable tax credit of $1,100 a year. And, Mr. Speaker, what's more is we'll make sure that those workers are not just feeling supported, but are supported in the workplace.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akiawenlak. Mr. Speaker, you know, we thought we'd seen everything at the CRA, but yesterday, Radio-Canada and Danielle Leblanc told us that the CRA had given money to a business that had asked for money back, and it wasn't verified by workers. Do you know how much money was sent out? $4.99 million. Almost $5 million, Mr. Speaker. And do you know who realized that? Well, not the CRA. It was TD Bank, Mr. Speaker. So the banks are doing the work of the CRA. It doesn't make any sense, but that's 10 years of Liberal mismanagement. Is there anyone on that team who's going to rise and dare to defend this?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and the Canada Revenue
Abuse of the
Agency.
tax system is illegal, and the CRA takes enforcement action when instances of abuse are identified. While we cannot comment on matters before the courts, Canadians can be assured that the CRA is maintaining the integrity of the tax system and preventing misuse of sensitive data. Canada's new government is committed to working with the CRA to continue to strengthen the integrity of our tax system and protect taxpayer dollars. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Protect the taxpayer dollars so you can spend them.
Albertans are being charged
What a bum.
$100 for a COVID-19 vaccination, while other Canadians are getting their vaccinations for free. The Canada Health Act guarantees access to necessary health services for everyone, regardless of where they live. But this government is doing nothing while premiers break the law and Canadians' health suffers. I wrote to the Prime Minister about this months ago, and I have yet to hear back from him. So I'm asking the Prime Minister today, why is he refusing to enforce the Canada Health Act so Canadians get the health care they deserve?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'd like to say to my colleague that we indeed believe in vaccines. The science is very clear on vaccines. We are working closely with the provinces and territories to accelerate vaccination rates. Vaccines, which are necessary, which are absolutely necessary, are covered by the provinces, and I am working with her province of Alberta to increase vaccination rates in that province. Thank you.
That brings question period to an end.
All right, there you have it. It's funny when the Liberals like to believe in science and then not believe in science when it fits their narrative. But, all right.
Remind members that the volume of earpieces will now be reset. Once again, if you could leave quickly and quietly, please.
Okay, I don't think there is going to be any sort of vote. It'll probably just head into normal House proceedings. So that is going to do it for today's live stream. Thank you for joining on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. That's going to do it for today. Have a great rest of your day or night, depending on where you are from. I will not be live tomorrow for question period. Missing out on that one. Yeah, it was a bunch of food bank questions today. But anyway, I will see you Wednesday for question period live stream. All right, take it easy.
Of government bills. Colleagues, could you please leave quietly? Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations.